Let's listen in. This is the mayor of Minneapolis, Mayor Jacob Frey.
There are no words that can capture the horror and the evil of this unspeakable act. Children are dead. There are families that have a deceased child. You cannot put into words the gravity, the tragedy, or the absolute pain of this situation. We are a Minneapolis family. But to everybody out there, do not think of these as just somebody else's kids. Those families are suffering immense pain right now. Think of this as if it were your own. Every one of us needs to be wrapping our arms around these families, giving them every ounce that we can muster. These were Minneapolis families. These were American families. And the amount of pain that they are suffering right now is extraordinary. And don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. It was the first week of school. They were in a church. These are kids that should be learning with their friends. They should be playing on the playground. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence, and their parents should have the same kind of assurance. These are the sort of basic assurances that every family should have, every step of the day, regardless of where they are in our country. I'm so deeply saddened, and I'm so sorry to the families that I know are suffering right now. My ask is to everyone, stand by them. Love them. These families have forever been changed, and we've all been changed with them. We need to do everything possible to support them through this time. We have a family resource center that has been set up. I'm grateful for all of the law enforcement agencies from a number of different jurisdictions, all the different departmental support that we've received. They're going to be working tirelessly. There's also a family resource center that is being set up as we speak to make sure that we're there for everybody. Again, to the families that are suffering, to those that have experienced loss, I'm so deeply sorry. We're going to be with you every step of the way. We love you. This kind of act of evil should never happen, and it happens far too often. The chief will provide additional details.
My name is Brian O'Hara, B-R-I-A-N, O''H-A-R-A. I am the Minneapolis Police Chief. Earlier today, just before 8:30 a.m., our city experienced an unthinkable tragedy. Minneapolis police officers responded to a report of a shooting at a mass that was happening at the Annunciation Roman Catholic Church on the block behind me. This worship service was marking the first week of school for children that are attending the Annunciation Catholic School. During the Mass, a gunman approached on the outside, on the side of the building, and began firing a rifle through the church windows towards the children sitting in the pews at the Mass. Shooting through the windows, he struck children and worshipers that were inside the building. The shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. This was a deliberate act of violence against innocent children and other people worshiping. The sheer cruelty and cowardice of firing into a church full of children is absolutely incomprehensible. Police officers from the Minneapolis Police Department immediately responded, entered the church, and attempted to provide first aid and rescue some of the children that were hiding throughout the building, while other first responders came and EMS responded to rush victims to nearby hospitals. 2 young children, ages 8 and 10, were killed where they sat in the pews. Their parents have been notified. 17 other people were injured, 14 of them being children. 2 of those children are in critical condition. The coward who fired these shots ultimately took his own life in the rear of the church. Our hearts are broken for the families who have lost their children, for these young lives that are now fighting to recover, and for our entire community that has been so deeply traumatized by this senseless attack. We will stand together to protect our children, our schools, and our houses of worship. This deliberate act of violence is just a sign of cruelty that is beyond comprehension. Our hearts are broken for everyone that's been affected by this tragedy. As we begin the difficult path of healing, I want the community to know this, that even in the face of such evil, the Minneapolis Police Department and all of our law enforcement partners stand with our community. We stand with these families and with this parish. We will continue to be here for you. With that, the investigation is obviously in its preliminary stages, and I will attempt to take some questions to provide further information.
Chief, what can you tell us about the suspect in this case? How old was he? Any kind of motivation? Any notes or any other information you might have left behind?
So we were looking, the question was, what can be said about the shooter? We believe it is one suspect, a sole shooter. We believe he is deceased. He is in his early 20s, does not have an extensive known criminal history, and we are looking through information left behind to try and determine some type of motive. Yeah.
Chief, do we know if he was a former student? Do you have about
How many children? There were, I don't have an exact, the question was how many children at the school. There were dozens of children inside the mass at the time. I don't have an exact count. The children have been relocated into the school, which is where their families are reunifying with them.
Do we know if the shooter,
other than the weapons, what
was the shooter a student, former student? Was he a former employee? Do we know that?
The question was, do we know if the shooter was a former school employee or a former student? We don't have that information.
Did he leave anything behind other than the weapon? Either like a note?
There's a vehicle. The question was anything left behind? There's a vehicle that we believe that the suspect used that is being searched, and we will be conducting other searches related to this.
And what was that vehicle and where was it parked?
Inside the parking lot here.
Is there parking lot?
Yep.
There was some neighbors who said that the door to the church had been barricaded.
Yep.
Is that correct?
So the question was, neighbors had said that the door to the church had been barricaded. The shooter approached on one side of the church building, and on that side, at least 2 doors, it appears there had been like a 2x4 placed. So not all of the doors around the building, but on the side where the shooter did fire.
And on the outside?
On the outside, yes.
Is there a reason why officers are going?
Were there any explosives that were found?
The question was there any explosives? There were reports of that. There were no explosives or improvised devices that we found. I do believe there was one, I guess you would call it a smoke bomb, like not an explosive, but a sort of a firework that would release smoke.
And which side of the building? North, south?
The side that is closest to us, here, on this side. Yeah.
Is there a reason why agents are also at these nearby homes?
I don't have specific information on that I can release.
Was he dead from a gunshot wound, this suspect?
The question was, is he dead from a gunshot wound? The answer is yes. We believe he took his own life in the parking lot.
Was this outside or both inside that he was shooting?
The question was he shooting outside and inside? He was absolutely shooting outside of the building on the side of the church, inside through the windows. It appears he may have gone inside, but I don't believe we've located any casings inside the building. So I'm not certain if he fired also while inside. It appears, if not all, most of the shooting happened outside the building.
Chief, is this shooting related to any other shootings that happened in the last 24
So,
hours?
yeah, Taylor's asking, is this related to any of the other shootings? This does not appear to be related to any other shooting in the city.
Do you know approximately how many rounds were
The question was how many rounds. I would say it's in the dozens. We don't have an exact count. There's a sidewalk on the outside as well as a grassy area. So obviously we are going through and taking our time to process the scene.
Was he firing just one weapon, like the rifle? Or
the question was he firing one weapon? We believe he had fired all three. He had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol.
Chief, was this individual licensed to conceal and carry? Did he have any background prior?
Were the weapons, was he lawfully carrying the weapons? I don't have that information, and I don't have any information on any significant criminal history either.
Was he dressed at all in any tactical type of gear or anything?
It appeared he had some black clothing on, his cargo-type pants. I guess you could interpret that as, however you like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for helping us to get the information out today. We have a lot more work
questions?
that needs to be done. We will return back later today to provide more details as they become available, and we'll let you know how you can know about that in the moments to come. Thank you. How can the public help?
That's it. Thank you.
Great. And once again, folks, if you have further inquiries, you want to send communications at.
You were just listening to the police chief of Minneapolis, Brian O'Hara, and before that, the mayor of the city, Jacob Frey, where they just confirmed at a shooting this morning at a Catholic church there in Minneapolis that 2 children, ages 8 and 10, were killed by a gunman who fired into a church while the children and other adults were having mass. The police chief said 17 other people are hurt. 14 of those are children. 2 of them are in critical condition. He called this act cruelty beyond comprehension, describing the moments before, during, and after those fires, that shooting, broke out. So this happened around 8:30 this morning at Annunciation Church. A school is there. It's a Catholic school for K through 8th graders. This is their first week of school. Kids in uniforms, young children in uniforms. At 8:15, it is the tradition of this church, this school, to have mass. They were praying. The chief said that the gunman, wearing all black with cargo pants, a man in his 20s, went to the side of the building where they were and started firing a rifle through the windows into the crowd of children and worshipers who were praying in their pews. He said it was a deliberate act of violence against children. The gunman, they later found, was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. At some point, you imagine, with the chief saying that, you heard him there, that one of the doors that was between where the gunman was shooting into the building and getting into where they were inside the chapel, it was barricaded. We don't know who barricaded the door, if it was from the inside of people trying to prevent him from coming in, but it was barricaded. Police responded very quickly. They entered into the church and first delivered first aid. They began to go throughout the church building to rescue children. We heard from a young girl who was inside, one of the students earlier today, saying that she was taken downstairs by a teacher where they could hide, where they can be safe. Now we understand why. When she said that she could hear the bullets because they were in that chapel having mass. Again, 2 children, ages 8 and 10, were killed in this attack. Their families have been notified. I cannot imagine what this day is like for them. 17 others, 14 of those children are currently injured, being treated in hospitals, with 2 of them in critical condition. The gunman, police say they believe he shot himself behind the church. And that confirms what we were hearing earlier in the reporting from ABC News, that the gunman died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police say that they were searching the vehicle that the gunman arrived in. They did not find any explosives. Apparently there had been some speculation that that could be a possibility. It was asked by one of the reporters you may have heard there who were in that gaggle. And we don't have an exact number of just how many children were inside. We just know that there were dozens at Mass, because that's what they do at this school. 8:15. They have Mass every day there. We don't know if there's any connection with this gunman who was in his 20s with the school. It was asked, you may have heard, is he a former student? Does he have any connection to this church, to this school, to any of the students, to any of the teachers? At this time, police could not give that answer, or they do not know, but I'm sure they're going to be looking into that, and we will get that information as we go. Prior to hearing from the police chief there in Minneapolis, we heard from the mayor, who is urging the community to wrap around these families who are experiencing something that no family ever wants to even imagine or think. But it was interesting to hear how passionate he got when he said this is about more than just thoughts and prayers, because I quote him in saying these kids were literally praying. He said it happens all too often. Again, we've been following this since we started this stream at 11 o'clock. We just heard the latest information about this tragic situation there. The words you never want to hear: a gunman at a school, children killed, children hurt. There's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be answered or asked to be answered moving forward. You know, this is just the beginning. Obviously, we're going to ask questions about the gunman. And right now, let's go to the medical center. I believe we're hearing from the doctors. If we can pull that up, maybe we can get some insight on the situation at the health facility where these children have been taken.
Pediatric patients. 4 of them require the operating room. And up to this point in time, there have been no fatalities related to any of those patients that were brought to our organization. I want to take a moment to tell you how proud I am to work for this organization and the teams that were involved, the resources, again, that were mobilized, our surgical colleagues, our medicine colleagues, our amazing nursing staff, our psychologists that help process these events for us, environmental services, all those involved. Hennepin EMS brought in all the critical scene to our organization, and we were very lucky to have 2 emergency medicine, emergency medical services directors that were on scene and able to provide us with really important information that, again, helped us to prepare for this event. So I don't have any individual or specific information about the patients at this time for you, so that's all I can share. Thank you for being here. Any questions?
You said they were in critical condition?
7 were brought in as critical patients, and at this time, I don't know the updates on what the conditions are of many of them. 4 of them required the operating room, as I said.
There was a baby.
There were, again, 9 of the 11 patients were pediatric ages. Can't remember the exact name, the exact ages. I believe it's 6 all the way up to 14. That's the range.
Can you tell us a little bit about what types of teams you had working this morning, how many people it takes to treat a syndicate?
Yeah, you know, whenever that type of a page goes out, again, it really puts into motion a lot of a big response from all of the teams. And so we are, because we're a level 1 trauma center, we have to, mobilize certain types of resources like, operating rooms and the surgical services. We have to have emergency providers and nurses. We have to, mobilize things like the laboratory and the blood bank. So there's a lot of planning, and again, a lot of exercises we do throughout the year to prepare for these events. And unfortunately, we respond to many of them throughout the year.
Can you talk about the injuries at all, or any type of what you're seeing here with some of these patients?
I can't get into specifics, but we are dealing with gunshot wound injuries from apparently a high-velocity weapon. And, gunshot wounds can be very problematic because they can involve multiple body systems. And again, they require a lot of resources to manage. But again, we see a lot of gunshot wounds here at Hennepin Healthcare, and we're among the best in the nation every year at managing penetrating trauma. So we are used to seeing them.
Can you tell us where the status of the 11, are any of them still in surgery?
I don't know the status of that. I can't share that with you at this time.
Has anyone shot more than once?
I can't share that information with you at this time.
Can you confirm the families of some of the victims that made their way here?
Yeah, we've had quite a bit of effort to stand up a reunification center across the street here at our clinical specialty care building. And so to my knowledge, I believe all or almost all of the families and loved ones have been reunited with patients and know their status.
Do you know if anyone is being treated at any other locations?
My understanding was we had a lot of the non-critical patients that went to Children's Hospital, and I believe one went to Masonic Children's Hospital as well. I don't know the status of any of those patients.
Can you speak to the toll it takes on physicians here who have to handle these types of cases and mass casualty cases within hours?
Yeah, it does take a toll. Thank you for asking that. Asking that question. I think again, we have psychologists that we have dedicated to our emergency department to help with our providers and our nurses and other workers that manage these types of events. Again, we've had 2 mass casualty events happen in the last 24 hours. I mean, that does take a toll. But we also have to recognize that we are here as a critical resource for our community, and we have to take time to process, these the care that we deliver in these situations, and we have to be able to move forward because we are obviously needed.
And none of those patients have been discharged?
Not to my knowledge.
You said there were 11 total, and 9 of them were pediatrics ages 6 to 14, but 7 were in critical condition. Are all of those that are pediatric, those 6 to 14, are all of those in critical condition, or are the ones that are older also in critical condition?
I don't want to misspeak here. I believe that all of the pediatric patients were the ones that were in the critical condition. Yes.
Did I get my numbers right in saying that?
You did. You did.
Can you give us your specific title one more time, Doctor?
It's Thomas Wyatt. Yeah, Chair of Emergency Medicine at Hennepin Healthcare.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Check out our newsroom too, because I will be posting the exact information on the patients, their conditions, just those general conditions and the numbers. The Hennepin Healthcare Newsroom. Thanks for coming.
Do you anticipate any other updates later in the day?
I'm hoping to give another update later. Just again, general conditions. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, that was us hearing from what appeared to be a trauma doctor there at the Hennepin Healthcare Center, the clinic, a level 1 trauma center in Minneapolis, where we know victims of this school shooting there at this Catholic church were taken. Now, earlier we heard from the police chief just a few minutes ago that the numbers right now of injured is 17 who are hurt, 14 were kids. That's what the police chief said. His number at the time was that 2 were critical of that number. Well, we just heard from that doctor there, that physician at the medical center, who has slightly different numbers, but I imagine, he says there are 11 people being treated there currently. 9 of those 11 are children, ages 6 to 14. So those are the ones in which they are treating right now. They got 11 people. 9 out of 11 of those are children ages 6 to 14. Of that 11, he said 7 are in critical condition and 4 needed surgery or are in surgery. That is what I took away from that information at the moment. Now, it could be, if we're looking at the numbers, why there are 11 that he mentioned are being treated there, where the police chief said there are 17. There could be a number of reasons why that could be the case. Some people may not have been sent to that particular hospital. Some people's injuries, we don't know if it warranted them to go there. We don't know, but I'm just presenting the numbers as they come in from the people who are working the scene, from the people who are supporting and helping the victims at this time. So we know for at least of those who are injured, there are at least 9 of them that are between the ages of 6 and 14 years old. After this gunman fired into a school, a church, housing a school, while they were in mass. And a clarification that I got, our team, I had said earlier that I wasn't quite clear from the police chief. We talked about one of those doors being barricaded, and I didn't know if it was from the inside, from people on the inside trying to keep the gunman out, or the gunman doing so. It appears, looking at our team, that we're all watching this at the same time, saying that the gunman had placed a 2x4 in front of 2 doors on that side of the church in which he was shooting, barricading those doors and then was able to shoot through the window into that. Okay, we have a reporter who is based there in Minneapolis.
Continues
Let's just go ahead and take her and listen to what she said.
And more tragic. As a parent myself, you know that the start of the school year is supposed to be one full of hope and new beginnings. Fry say earlier, just about a half hour ago, that these kids should be in a classroom right now learning. They should be out on the playground playing, and that did not play out here today, and no one here will ever be the same because of today. You heard him say that 2 kids, ages 8 and 10, were killed. 2 more are in critical condition. And again, we heard the police chief go through the details, and they're just tough to listen to. You heard him describe how the gunman shot through the windows of the church as everyone was inside, including a school full of students. They were inside, gathered for the back to school mass. And that gunman shot not only students but also worshipers inside. He also told us that they are working to learn more about the gunman right now. They don't know much at this point. They described him as a male in his early 20s who was dressed in black. They're not even sure if he went inside the church. They say that he shot through the windows of the church. They say he had a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, and he used all 3. You also mentioned all the parents who rushed to the neighborhood, confused and scared and then grateful once they were able to pick up their kids. I spoke with one mom who said her boss drove her here as soon as they heard the news. She said she prayed the entire way here, hoping her daughter would be okay. She said they had all the kids lined up, ready for reunification with their parents and caregivers. And she said she told herself, please let my daughter be in that group. Please let my daughter be in that line. And she was. Her daughter also spoke with us, who's a 5th grader, and said that she heard the shots fire out during church and that they were rushed down to a preschool classroom. That little girl said that she prayed the entire time, and she said she's so grateful to be with her mom. She is so grateful to feel safe now at this point, and she said she thinks that God was watching over her today, and she thinks that her guardian angel was watching over her today. So again, just the gamut of emotions here in this neighborhood, from fear, confusion, anger, grief, to also relief here tonight, guys.
I thought she captured that very well. We've been talking about that, how the families, how the children, how this community must be feeling this morning to learn, to experience that, and for those who were not there to learn what has taken place. Again, we're learning this morning that a gunman opened fire into a church where a school is housed, a Catholic school, while they were having mass to kick off their school year. 2 children are killed, ages 8 and 10. 17 people hurt, according to the police chief. 14 of those are children, with 2 of those critical. And we've heard from medical doctors there at that level 1 trauma center in the area that there are at least 9 children being treated there between the ages of 6 to 14. This is a difficult day, one that's going to impact far beyond just Minneapolis. Obviously, we are here in Hampton Roads, Virginia, and our hearts had just dropped the moment that we saw these reports come through, and obviously in listening to the mayor and the police chief give a detailed description of what took place. And it's something that we're going to have a lot of questions moving forward about, questions particularly also about the gunman himself. We know that it's a male in his 20s who showed up with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol. We don't know of any connection, no immediate criminal history that we know of. At this point, we're trying to get any information we can and listen to people's stories, and that includes interviews that are taking place live at the scene right there in Minneapolis. Sarah, I believe this is someone being interviewed about her experience. Maybe it's a neighbor. Let's see if we'll listen, if we can pull her up.
Up over there, and as that was happening is when the other police officers were pulling up from behind further down the street, and they were also running up with their guns.
And then other observations then along the way. You can repeat yourself.
The parents coming out of the car and screaming, all of the cops that were showing up, and just there so many. They just kept coming, surrounded my car in. I didn't get out, kept the window shut because I didn't know if it was still out there or what was going on.
It was safe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So she called me hysterical, and the first thing she said is, "Mom, I'm safe, but something really bad is happening, and I don't know what it is, but something really bad has happened, and there's police everywhere, Mom, and I don't know what to do." And that's the worst call to get as a parent. I mean, I'm grateful that she's safe, and I can't even imagine what it's like for the other parents and community members who are affected by this.
Were you inside the school?
No, she was just...
Okay, you were listening to accounts from what appears to be a parent talking about there at the end what her daughter experienced, what she heard from her daughter. We heard from another child earlier in this stream explaining and describing her experiences being inside of that church when those bullets rang out, and talking about how a teacher took her downstairs for shelter. We now know that the police, when they entered into, they had to search throughout the church so that they could find people, children who were hiding, to make sure that they knew that they were safe. The mayor, the governor, the police chief, we've heard from the president, we've heard from Attorney General of the United States, we've heard from the FBI director, we've heard from a lot of people today, all of them calling this a tragedy, senseless, unimaginable. And if I can pull up the exact quote from the chief, cruelty beyond comprehension.